But, yeah, I think to answer the question for right now, though, I think the chat box so that everyone can see what people are saying. And we will have time at the end to answer any questions that anyone has.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we're excited to see you all here.
I guess we can probably get started.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming to the first meeting of the Autism Educators Support Alliance. We are excited to have you here, excited to open up a conversation between us, between each of you, and to really start addressing, you know, the struggles that we're all having, not just under COVID-19, but to really take the things that we're learning now and apply it and expand it across the entire year, to make education for students with autism that much better in the coming years. So I am Sandra Kirshner. I have a PhD in clinical psychology from Miami University in Ohio. I grew up in South Central Pennsylvania, but I have lived in just outside of Wilkes-Barre in Berwick, Pennsylvania, since 2004. We moved here for me to complete my pre-doctoral internship at Geisinger in Danville. I have been working as a behavior specialist in the autism program through Children's Service Center since 2004. I work specifically in the Hazleton School District. So the 98% of my clients go to Hazleton. I am also the director of the Hazleton Autism Family Support Hub. And I am currently enrolled, completing my BCBA credential to be a board certified behavior analyst. Kristen?
And my name is Kristen Hoffman. I am the director of the Autism Center at Misericordia University. I've moved to this area about 1.5 years ago. Prior to that, I was a special ed teacher in Northern Virginia for 13 years. The last 5 of those years, I was exclusively working with children with autism. Now, as the director, I'm very excited to be working with so many different people and creating a lot of different programs to support these individuals, both in social groups and other types of activities that we have. And I am currently working on my educational doctorate at Wilkes University.
Kristen and I were brought together by a excellent collaborative that was created just over 1 year ago. We just finished our first year. Money was donated to improve autism services in northeastern Pennsylvania, so in 13 counties in northeastern Pennsylvania, by the All One Foundation. And that money was used to start the Autism Collaborative Centers of Excellence. It is a partnership. It started with 13 organizations and is now well over 20, almost 30 different partners who provide services across the lifespan, across the spectrum, from education to behavioral health to medical to community transition, work skills, pretty much anything you can think of that affects an individual with autism. There's a partner in the collaborative who does that. So both the Autism Center at Misericordia and then also the Hazleton Family Support Hub are funded through the ACE collaborative. So we're very excited to work with them and all the partners to bring some really excellent resources to the area.
So when Sandy and I were talking about some of the unique needs that were going to be started because of this COVID-19 crisis and, you know, teachers moving to distance learning, which is new to, I would think, the majority of teachers, we were trying to think of a way that we could support. So this is how we came up with this idea to have this educator series. And quite honestly, we thought we would only get a couple of teachers that were all local. And you'll see later on, we're going to share you know, some of the statistics of the people that are here with us today. But we actually kind of now feel like this can be a much broader way to help teachers and educators. So we came up with a vision, and I am going to read it, even though I know you all can read, just because we're really kind of very proud of this vision and what it means. So the Autism Educators Support Alliance will be a collaborative of teachers and related service providers committed to strengthening relationships and providing educators with a forum to discuss the evidence-based resources they need to provide high-quality learning opportunities for students with autism. We know that you are doing that in your classrooms every day. And with this kind of new way of teaching and the new shaping that education is taking, that we really want to be able to support each other through that.
So to that end, you know, the goals for what we're doing very much grew out of the vision. And as Kristen said, not just the vision under, you know, the pandemic that we're going through that's shaping all of our lives right now, but having been a behavior specialist, I have had the privilege of working with some really phenomenal teachers in the autism support classrooms, in the regular ed classrooms, in Hazleton School District. But I really want to be able to provide the support that I provide. The teachers are doing amazing things, not just in their classrooms, but the amazing things that I've seen the teachers that I work with doing with the students right now. And it really got me thinking, you know, you're each an island, because when you were in the school, you had the support of the people around you. And right now you're working from your homes, you're providing, you know, excellent educational services to children, but you're really doing that in an isolated way. And we wanted to try and bring, because each of you are doing things that are unique and that are creative and that are just making the best of this situation that none of us could have ever imagined we would be facing, that this is a way to bring each one of you into each other's, you know, classrooms so that you can learn from each other. So the first goal that we have is to provide a forum for teachers to express their concerns and needs freely and without judgment. What you're all doing is unprecedented. That you were asked to completely upend everything about the way you teach and do something different, literally overnight. And it's okay to be frustrated and to need help and to struggle with this, because I think we're all struggling with it in whatever ways we're being asked to bring our services to the individuals. We're struggling. So that's our first goal. The second goal is to provide opportunities for education professionals from all areas and levels of expertise to learn from each other. So we'll go into this more a little later, but we have professionals from a wide variety of backgrounds, not just locations, but backgrounds in terms of specialties. And that's really exciting to me, to bring together people who approach the idea of educating children from so many different viewpoints and across the child's life, from early intervention through high school and transition into the workforce. So that is our second goal. And then our third goal is to provide evidence-based resources and trainings for educators to give them the tools they need to meet the individualized needs of their students. You know, you all are experts in individualizing your services and your educational abilities to the children that are in your classrooms. And now you are being asked to completely redesign that at the drop of a hat, and with technology that may or may not work for every child, or may not be a technology that you are familiar with. So one of the things that we do at the hubs, so Kristen and I, is we are a information and resource referral service for anyone in the autism community, though we tend to work mostly with parents. So people, parents, caregivers who are looking for services can call us, and we will do the legwork, and we will find the resources and then provide that information to them. We joke sometimes that we're the Google of autism in Northeastern Pennsylvania. We spend just a lot of time researching. And watching you all recreate, you know, your educational services through distance learning, that was really what started this conversation for Kristen and I, of how do we help? Because where you have a caseload of however many children you need to serve, you may, the sheer amount of time that it takes to individualize those resources and services to each one of those children is immense. There's simply not enough hours in the day for you to really do that, while you're also, many of you, home with your own children. There are only so many hours in the day. And so we definitely have the ability to take some of that burden off of you and to look at how can we help you find the very individualized things that may help your children, your students, because we have the time and you may not. So those are the three goals that we really want to focus on.
Okay, so this is the part that I actually think is the most exciting. Like I said, we're both here. We're in Northeastern Pennsylvania. We assume that the people who will be joining us will be exclusively from Northeastern Pennsylvania as well. But as you can see, we have many states that are represented here by you, as well as other countries. And to me, you know, as a special ed teacher at heart, like, this is so exciting, because the best ideas I've ever gotten is from other teachers. And, you know, to have this, you know, broad group of, you know, people with different experiences and, you know, different types of, you know, families and students from different types of socioeconomic statuses. And, you know, it's just really going to allow a much broader conversation. So I was really very excited and surprised to see, you know, that kind of turnout from the location standpoint. I was equally as excited to see a different range in professions and roles that people are playing within their schools. You know, I assumed that I would see special ed teachers here. I was hoping I would see some general education teachers here. I know that we have a music teacher present out there. That was very exciting. We have some occupational therapists, principals, but it really shows that, you know, everyone wants to do the best for their students. And it's just exciting to see people that want to, you know, broaden their expertise and really broaden what they know to help the students. You know, we're specifically talking about students with autism, but my guess is that you all want to help all types of students. And you know, as a teacher, that's just makes my heart explode. So I'm really excited to see that.
I do want to comment because I see we have a speech therapist here as well. I do want to say a couple of things. If you have received the survey that we sent out and you haven't had a chance to fill it out and submit it, we would definitely still love you to do that, because we would like to have a real vision, a real picture of the people that we have here. I do want to address too, I know we have some caregivers, some moms, some other caregivers and advocates and things here. We love that you're here. We love that you have taken the time to come and do this. And we in no way, I in no way want you to hear this as us saying that you're not an important and integral part of what we're doing here. However, we are going to say that what we're really trying to do here is to provide a forum that is really specific to educators. So moving forward after tonight, we are going to ask that everyone who signs up for the ongoing discussion groups are educational professionals in some way, so that you work to provide services in the school setting. We do provide a lot of other services to benefit, and trainings, webinars, discussion groups for parents. So the moms, the parents that are here, I definitely encourage you. We're going to have our contact information at the end, and we definitely encourage you to check that out and reach out to us in terms of connecting with those resources that can help you the best.
And I promise to add speech therapists to that list. I see you, speech therapists. I'm proud. I'm glad that you're so proud to be here, though. I appreciate that.
Yes. I was actually really shocked when we were going through the surveys earlier that we didn't have any speech therapists on the surveys. And maybe we just, if you did fill it out, we may have done the slides before you turned it in. But no, I'm excited to see you here, because I do think that the speech, the SLPs are an integral part of autism services. So absolutely. I'm excited to see you here. Yeah. So moving then into what we lured you all here with was just the idea that I already spoke to, that COVID-19 has changed the expectations that have been placed on you drastically. Overnight, with no warning, you've been expected to completely redo the way you do everything. So moving for the rest of today, and then moving into, as we talk about the discussion groups, it really is distance learning, and the specific challenges and successes, the pros and cons that can come out of distance learning for students with autism.
Right.
So the first thing that we, so if you haven't gotten the survey, I just want to respond real quick to one of the questions. We sent out the survey as an email. So if you haven't gotten the survey, we will definitely, we have a Facebook page that was just started today, so you wouldn't have seen it before, but we can also, I think, post the link to the survey, Kristen, on the Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to post that link, and, that's really going to help us. Well, like I said, first of all, I got super excited about there being even more than one state on there. It does help us to know, and even, even moving forward, if I have a family that calls me and says, we're moving here from Pennsylvania to, New York, And, you know, now I have a relationship with some teachers in New York. They might have some questions, and it just becomes like a really great resource, again, so that we can all help each other. So yeah, if you haven't filled out the survey, I'll post the link on our Facebook group, which we'll share a little bit right at the end, I think. And if you wouldn't mind taking the time to fill that out, that would really help us out.
Yep. So as we were getting the surveys back, I think one of the things that was really interesting to us was the number of different platforms. Some of these I've never even heard of. So the number of different platforms that you all have found, researched, and really been able to integrate into what you're doing. So one of the things we are definitely going to do moving forward, one of our goals for the discussion groups, and I know I keep saying that, we are going to explain, I promise, is yes, the slideshow will also be shared to all of the attendees, and then we will also be posting this video and the slides on the Facebook page as well. So the goal of the discussion groups, and in those groups, you will be able to actually talk to each other, because our plan is to make them much smaller, special interest kind of groups. We just couldn't figure out how to have 40 people talking to each other all at once.
Well, we did have 104 registered, so
yeah,
that 48 would have been a little bit easier.
48 would have been easier. Yeah, we had over 100 people register. So, but this is a really interesting list of platforms that you're all using, and that our goal is definitely, you know, if you see something on there that you're curious about and you haven't, you know, heard of it, seen the way it can be used, jot that down. And that's going to be a topic that we are going to address as we move forward. How to get you all not just access to these different platforms, but to really get you the training and, you know, from each other, you know, to tell each other how these platforms have been helpful to you in providing the services that you provide.
Right. Okay, so again, from the survey, and I know that some of you haven't filled it out yet, and that's okay, but especially maybe for the ones who haven't filled it out, I think the nice thing is, in this situation, again, I think we feel very like distant from each other. Obviously, we need to be distant, but it's nice to see some similarities. You know, I think everyone kind of feels alone and wondering, you know, am I doing this correctly? Like, could I be doing it better? You know, I'm having these problems. But I'm sure if you look at this list of the problems that people are seeing with distance learning, I'm sure that you have some of the same similar problems. You know, most people talked about that student engagement and student intention, you know, being a major issue, along with the use of technology, you know, it being inconsistent, whether their access to the device is inconsistent, or the Wi-Fi access is inconsistent, or, you know, they can only use it in the evenings or the mornings, but you're trying to have a session with them. And, you know, all of those struggles seem to be really happening across the board with everybody. Yes, the Facebook group will be open to others. We will ask you to share.
So I want to
that question.
I want to interrupt you real quick, Kristen, and just make it really clear that right now it is just a Facebook page.
Yes.
But that if people are interested as we move forward in a private Facebook group, that is something that we can facilitate as well. But right now it is just a public page open to anyone. And we are going to ask you to share that. Yeah. So I just want to clarify that, Kristen. Sorry to interrupt.
No. This is what it's all about, right? So again, I really just kind of put this up here so that you could all see that, you know, your struggles are their struggles, and, you know, these are the areas that, you know, we understand that you're having trouble with this, and we are already speaking to some experts on how we can try to address some of these issues, especially with distance learning. also being aware that some of these issues were present, you know, even when you had face-to-face classes, right? So, you know, we don't want to make this all about distance learning, because one day we might not be distance learning anymore. We really want this to be about, you know, how can we help students, you know, regardless of what type of learning model they're in, whether it's face-to-face, distance learning, or a hybrid of both. We want to help, you know, find the resources that you need to, you know, feel the most successful. Now, if we talk about the problems, of course, we have to talk about the successes. A lot of people put like little anecdotal stories. This was where people put the most detail, which made me, again, really happy to see. A lot of people talked about having that nice communication with families, that, you know, parents were present during Zoom meetings, and, you know, that they were able to have that, you know, instantaneous communication, which teachers, of course, are not used to having. They also said that they were really able to coach the parents through some of the learning that the child needed to do, because they were right there together rather than trying to exchange an email and explain. So that was really nice. I also liked hearing about generalizing the skills at home. And somebody was talking about how the family was able to see the behaviors that the teacher had been talking about at school. And again, I think that, you know, even though we don't want to see, you know, those behaviors, you know, having the family really get a glimpse into what the student looks like during the school day, I think really helps them have a better understanding of what you're trying to do. Okay.
So that moves us in to the part where we talk about what we very much didn't want this to be is just a series of trainings or webinars where quote unquote experts talk at you as professionals. Those things exist, and we do have some webinars planned and those things, but that really isn't the meat of what we're doing. What we really want is a way for you all to talk to each other and to learn from each other, and not just have people talking at you, because often the professionals who are talking at you don't know what you're going through with your individual students and your individual situations. You know, often the professionals, they give you the bird's eye view. They give you the information from a theoretical perspective that is just not easy to translate into actual practice in your classrooms or across distance learning. So how we want to open this up, and we do have time at the end, we're going to open it just to some questions and comments from you all. But the 3 ways that we want to help you first is our Facebook pages are there. So for the Autism Educators Support Alliance, which is brand spanking new as of this morning. So bear with us, bear with
it only has 2 members right now.
Yes, the 2 members are myself and Kristen. So, and we don't even have a logo yet. So excuse our dust as we set up, but we wanted to have it set up for you tonight. And then, the other 2 Facebook pages that are there are the Facebook pages for both the Hazleton Autism Support Hub and then also the Autism Center at Misericordia, because we both do share other resources that may be beneficial for not specifically education providers all the time, but could be resources that are beneficial to your families as well. So I do want to address, yes, we only have one. There is only one webinar set up right now. So next week, July 10th from 6 to 7, We are having a webinar, Practical Responses to Behavior While Preserving Dignity. That will be our first one. We have not set up any more webinars yet because we want your feedback. We don't want to just set up webinars because we think it's what you need. We want it to really be the kinds of trainings and the kinds of presentations that would be really beneficial to you. So that is going to be, and we will be posting more information both through email and on the Facebook group to get some feedback from you all about what kinds of trainings and webinars you'd like to see. But the thing we're most excited about, and that I really think is the meat of what we're doing here, is the discussion groups. So we do want to split the larger group into 2 discussion groups at first, though we are open to, if there are, as we come out of those groups, if there are specific topics or specific ways that make sense, to split those groups into smaller discussion groups that make sense. And those will be done over Zoom, so they will be, you know, as face-to-face as we can get right now, to actually be interactive conversations amongst all of us. So right now, on the early childhood, we're combining early childhood education and elementary on June 15th from 6 to 7, and then on June 16th from 6 to 7, a discussion for providers in middle school, high school. There may be some of you who, you know, because you are a speech therapist or because you are a behavior analyst or a principal, that it may make sense for you to attend, or you may be interested in attending both, and that's fine. We just really, the needs of those 2 levels, I think, are very different in some ways. So it seemed to make sense to us to split it up that way. Another way that it may eventually make sense for us to split is if it seems like general education versus a self-contained classroom situation, often the needs and resources that are needed for those different populations, it may make sense. So don't, just because we've split it up this way, think that this is set in stone. This is just our idea, but we definitely want your ideas and what makes sense to you as we move forward.
Yep. And I think that Sandy already said this, but you know, kind of in the response that we only see one webinar, we put the webinar that we have scheduled that's specifically targeted towards educators and people working, you know, with children in that capacity. But on our Facebook pages, I can speak to mine the most. You know, we've got several webinars scheduled for June. We have 2 that are being hosted by OTs that are talking about sensory needs and you know, ways to occupy children without the iPad. So you can take a look there, and just because they're not posted specifically as the educator series doesn't mean that you can't be involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I do agree with you, Shannon, that this is a very arbitrary way to split things up, and that as we move forward, it may actually end up making more sense if we find splitting up discussions into topics rather than age ranges might make more sense. I think that if you are, so for us here, what would be 7th and 8th for you would be part of our high school group, and that preschool through 6th grade would be what would be part of our elementary group. So whatever age ranges match with that. Though, as you can imagine, as you get into those middle grades, 6th and 7th, there's going to be a lot of overlap between the needs in each group.
Right.
So this is just the way we're kind of arbitrarily deciding to do this up front. But yeah, we're completely open to if we do it this way and it just seems like it doesn't make sense, then we'll change it.
Yeah.
We very much want you all to consider what's happening with this group to be your group, not that we are the professionals that are running, that we are just the facilitators. We want to give you a platform. We want to do the work that gives you the platform. So yeah, so all of this is open to change. I do want to respond. Someone had said that the handles aren't coming up for Facebook. So I'm just going to say the names of the Facebook pages again so you can search. So it is Autism Educators Support Alliance. So just what you see there is the title of our the Facebook page for this group. The Hazleton Hub is the Hazleton Autism Family Support Hub, is the name of our page. And then yours, Kristen, is?
It's Autism Center at Misericordia University.
Right. So if these handles aren't coming up, that's how you would find them on the Facebook.
Yeah. And there might be a way that we can share these pages into the new Facebook page as well.
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay.
So
yeah,
we will,
so we'll do that also.
As long as you can find the Autism Educators one, we'll link our other 2 pages to those.
Yep. And on that note, it's the last piece on here, but this is going to be both of our email addresses. So if you do have a problem finding the groups, you can definitely contact us this way. But so we talked about how we are planning to help you. We want to talk a little bit about how you can help us. The first one is completing that survey. I know we talked about it a few times, but it really does kind of help us get that like baseline of where everybody's at so that we can really understand what your needs are, at least right now. And we know that it's going to be ever evolving and changing, and it also gives us, all the email addresses for everybody and, all that kind of information. The next one, join the Facebook page and share with your colleagues. As Sandy said earlier, the intention of this group and this Facebook page is really looking at teachers. We're looking at a way for teachers to collaborate. The Autism Hub, both at Misericordia and in Hazleton, those are great sites for parents. So that's another thing you can do is you can tell your parents about those pages. Like I said, we have a lot of webinars right now being in this virtual world. It doesn't matter where you live, you can participate. And they're all, they're all free. So it really could be a good thing to provide for your families as well. And please feel free to share that information. We'd like you to come to the discussion groups ready to collaborate. I think because you're here, that kind of goes without saying. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want, this kind of experience. And then please share your ideas, your questions, your concern directly with us. So if you have a great idea of like, I would love to, discuss this topic, or I would love to see a webinar, on this particular problem, we would love to hear that. It only helps us more, which in turn would hopefully help you more. And that's kind of the end of where we are. So now would be a great time if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box. And I, for one, am looking forward to a more face-to-face meeting. I'd much rather hear your questions while being able to see you. But if you do have any questions now, please feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I do want to say something else while people are composing questions. That is important, as Kristen and I have been talking, and as Kristen alluded to earlier, we do imagine, hopefully, that there will be a time in the future that we will not be distanced from each other, and that I am not used to being separated from the communities that I serve and I help with. So I am very much about community involvement. And so one of the things that we are planning at our hub is to, once we are able to meet face to face, go back into the world, that we will be doing face to face, real life groups that will also be broadcast, so that if you're not in our local area, you're not shut out. But if you are in our local area, that being able to do that face to face, I think is really exciting. And the other thing that will match with that is one of the projects that we're working on through the hubs is to create a resource lending library for teachers. Because I know, just in my experience of, working with, some of you who are here, and all the great teachers that I work with in Hazleton, is that a lot of you, most of you, all of you, are spending your own money to test out and create materials for your classrooms that may or may not end up being successful. And that if we had a resource for you to be able to borrow those things from a lending library, it would open up your ability to do more creative and exciting things in your classrooms. So some of the things that we're looking at is also to have a die cut machine and access to things like Board Maker to print out and laminate and create manipulatives and materials for your classrooms. And those things would be, for the most part, free of charge to you. We may end up, right now, as Kristen said, we're grant funded. So we are able to provide some of these things to you for free. We may end up, if there's a lot of consumables for creating manipulatives, that we would have the machine. All you'd need to bring is cardstock or whatever. And then as part of that, at our individual hubs, to have little lessons or groups where we can actually hands-on show you how to create manipulatives, how to create a first then board, how to create a picture schedule, how to create, because I think that a lot of those things, a lot of those ideas are thrown at you, but sometimes people don't always explain to you how do you make that? How do you actually make that? And how do you individualize that to your students? So having an almost, an old-fashioned knitting group, but instead of knitting, we'll be making classroom materials for your classrooms. So that is, we're really excited to get that off the ground once we're able to actually see each other face to face.
Yeah, and even Sandy, if we do have those resource libraries, I think that we certainly could do some Zoom meetings and webinars of like how to, yes, do, like you were saying, those how-tos. It would be so easy to also do that over Zoom for all of our friends out of state. I love that Mary's ready for the road trip already. Like she's like all in.
Yes.
So
anyone else have any questions, comments, anything that, and feel free if there's anything that we've said that you're like, I actually don't think that's gonna work. We would love to hear that too. We're very open to this being a collaborative, to this being your space. Barbara, that's one of my big, even when I've worked in classrooms, a lot of these, a lot of the times we bring in, yes, there is actually, we are basing our lending library on a library that already exists and has existed in Bloomsburg, at the Bloomsburg University. And having research, having access to books that you can borrow and look at, nonfiction, books for you, not for the kids, but also some books for the kids too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just assumed, I think, by a lot of people that when you become a teacher, and especially when you become an autism support teacher, that it just gets downloaded into your brain how to do these things, and it just doesn't. So you spend a lot of time researching to figure out how to do the things that you need to do rather than just doing the things.
Yeah.
And that's really where we come in, that we do the research and then we teach it to you, so you don't have to do the research.
Yeah, and Shannon, I love your comment here, because that is a huge problem. How do you get the buy-in from the other professionals? And I think a lot of that comes from the more knowledge that you have and the more ability you have. Like, again, if you go to the teacher and say, use a first then chart, it'll solve everything. First then chart and a timer, no big deal, you got it, no big deal. But if you go there with the first then chart, and the timer, and you teach the teacher how to use it, there might be some more buy-in there. When I was a special ed teacher, I tried to work my way in with the teachers that I felt like would be more receptive, and then like that bragging, like, oh my gosh, the behavior got so much better, and then they're like, wait a minute, okay, maybe we'll talk to you now. But I think that that's a great conversation to have. And a great topic. I mean, clearly that's a huge issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, any other questions? I'm excited. Everyone seems excited. I'm excited.
I definitely am too.
All right, so like we said, if you could please join that Facebook page would kind of be your first priority, and completing that survey. Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. And then you'll get more information from us. The link, the Zoom links for the meetings. And just a note on those Zoom links for those meetings. For this one, we just had the registration open, and it didn't require us to approve you to come. And we are going to have that moving forward. All you'll have to do is put your all you'll have to do is put just your role in the school. Like we said, that this is really going to be focused on the educators, so we just want to make sure that it's somebody that's working within a school setting is kind of our parameter for that. So just be on the lookout for those. I'll probably have them up by tomorrow.
I just put the link for the Facebook group into the chat. I'll actually grab ours too. That's actually a good idea. I don't know why we don't think about technology.
That's why we need you. We
literally have the technology sitting in front of us to do the thing.
Can you put mine up there too, Sandy?
Yep, I'll grab yours too.
Well, we do know that you had a lot of other things you could be doing from 6 to 7 today, and we just really appreciate you, and I think it really shows your dedication, which we just appreciate so much, and we're both very excited. We've been talking like crazy about this project, just because I feel like it really could impact a lot of teachers.
Yeah. And I hope, I don't know if you mind if I say this, Kristen. I think you probably won't mind. But we also both really appreciate you all being here and being open to having this conversation, because we are both also parents of children on the spectrum, and that just seeing how many of you are just so committed to the kids and to being better. You know, we all can be better. As professionals every day, I learn something new. That's why after 15 years, I'm going back to get my BCBA. I haven't been in grad school in 15 years. But it really does. Well, we appreciate you being here anyway. That's great.
Good job, Amanda.
Yes. Yeah, no, it touches us both on a professional, a client. But yeah, it touches us both on a professional level and on a personal level. So we really do appreciate you all being here.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Honestly, even if I really think, I think this is a good point because you had mentioned about if they just put in the box on the survey saying that they are not yet that they are not yet teachers or educational professionals, they're welcome. I think that I love that. I think the fact that you're here and that that your students would be interested in being part of this is amazing. And yeah, definitely have them if they want to come for the discussion groups. I know there was a comment earlier about splitting up some groups by location, which I think is something that could definitely happen, as we move forward. But yes, so definitely, even if they're not educational professionals yet, but they're students, they're not employed in a school building, just have them say that on the link and we'll let them in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they're very passionate and have wonderful ideas to share as well. And I would just tell them that they certainly be welcome to join both meetings, or they can join the meeting that is the age group they plan to be working with.
Right.
That's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, we'd love to have them. Young blood is always good.
Yes. Yes. Let's get them early.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, nice.
Oh, very cool.
That's awesome. One thing I do want to plug before we sign off, from the ACE Collaborative, Scranton University in October every year has a disability conference. It sounds different when we say it because you can't see it, but we really stress it's dis as in lowercase ability, that it really is about promoting the strengths and things. So it is in October, and this year, because of COVID, it is online. It is going virtual. The comment about Dr. Grandin reminded me, because she is going to be our keynote speaker at the conference in October. And one of the things that they're doing for the conference, we had planned to do it live. For those of you who are in the Scranton, within driving distance of Scranton, we were going to have this year different tracks for professionals versus self-advocates versus care providers. Unfortunately, we can't be there in person, but that is still the goal, is to have different tracks. So one of the goals is to have a track for educators, but definitely, and we will post that information on the Facebook page as well for the conference. It is free. I think there's a very, very low charge if you need CEUs, but I don't know if they're doing the CEUs virtual. We'll find that information out. But it is free of charge for professionals, for parents. So it's definitely something we want to invite you to as well to participate in.
Real quick before we sign off. So Amanda asked, you just signed up today for the webinar. Where do I find the survey? I'm going to post a link to the survey on the Facebook page, so you can find it there. I'm not sure if you're still here, but
Yep.
all right, great. All right, well, have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.